Okay.
So Jordy, I have your permission to record this?
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you. It will be unlisted, so the only people who will have the link will be you and me, unless you decide to share that with your wife.
Okay. Perfect.
The fact that we were just talking about a fourplex that Jordy is buying in Belleville, and the Belleville market is still a reasonable investment market, unlike Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Kingston, even Ottawa is getting expensive. But
Right.
Belleville so far has been overlooked, and Jordy and I are going to keep that a secret, right?
Yes.
So Jordy has just bought a fourplex in Belleville for $175,000, but it needs new everything, new foundation,
Yeah.
new everything. And so the concern that Jordy expressed to me just before we started recording this is that when he's finished, he'll have about $600,000 invested in the property, and he's concerned that the appraisal may come in lower, just simply because Belleville doesn't have the same real estate inflation that's happening in a lot of other cities. And what is the issue, or how do you resolve that issue? And so one of the things I was about to say is that before we even let an appraiser in the door, we do a CMA. CMA is a comparative market analysis, and realtors can do them for you. Like realtors can't do appraisals, you know that, right?
Right.
An appraiser
Right.
has to do an appraisal.
Yeah.
But I'm a real estate investment and business coach, but I'm also a realtor, and so realtors are permitted to do CMAs. But
Right.
you have to find a realtor, Jordy, who understands how to do a CMA in 3 different ways, okay? The
Yeah.
first one is the obvious thing, which is comparables. Everybody knows what a comparable is. So
Right.
you've got a fourplex, and you look at what other fourplexes have sold for in
Yeah.
reasonable proximity,
Yeah.
reasonably comparable, and within, hopefully 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And that gives you a comparable. And that's what most appraisers are using. They're looking at comparables, and unfortunately, they tend to err on the side of low
Yeah.
valuations, which
Yeah.
is a killer for financing and refinancing.
Right.
The second way to evaluate a project is, and you should do this, you should keep very careful track, and I'm sure you do, of every dollar that you spent renovating this place.
Right.
Because another second way to value property is on a cost to complete, less depreciation.
Right.
Since this is pretty much a new build, there won't be much depreciation, but
Right.
there'll be a heck of a lot of costs. So you
Yeah.
bought it for $175,000, you put in another
Yeah.
$425,000, you're at
Yeah.
$600,000 before you can blink.
Yeah.
And you have to itemize every single item that you do. And the
Right.
reason for that is when an appraiser, you've done lots of appraisals, you've already got 9 properties, I saw that in your email.
Yeah.
So when you do an appraisal, the appraisers, they generally spend 10 or 15 minutes in a building.
Yeah.
And so if you put in new electrical panels, if you put in new wiring, if you put in new plumbing, I mean, there's a million things that you'll do that are behind the walls or under the floor or in the ceiling, that they can't see.
Right.
And so what you should do is you should keep a very, very careful list of all of your costs.
Okay.
And that's a cost to complete, less depreciation. So
Yeah.
whatever your total costs are, but $615,000, you
Yeah.
should be able to demonstrate that.
Okay.
In addition to that, Jordy, all the people that I coach, or most of them, when they
Yeah.
do a project like this, they also keep track of their time,
Uh-huh.
your time.
Okay.
Because guess what? Your time is worth something.
Right.
So
Right.
let's say you spend, I'm just guessing, 500 hours supervising this project,
Right.
and say you bill the project at $80 an hour. I don't know what your billing
Yep.
rate is, but that
Yep.
might not be unusual.
Okay.
That's another $40,000 that you should put into the cost base.
Okay.
Because if you hired a project manager, trust me on that, he or she will charge you at least $80 an hour.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you might say, well, why would I do that? Well, I'll tell you why. So you've got a number that says, okay, the value for this property based on comparables in Belleville is $500,000, even though you spent $600.
Yeah.
So that's not too good. But when you did the cost to complete, it was $605,000 plus another $40,000 for project management time, your time.
Right.
So it was $645,000, and that almost all of the appraisers that I work with will accept that. They won't accept you billing the project at $1,000 an hour like those
Right.
rich Toronto lawyers. You know,
Right.
some of them are charging $950 an hour, and
Right.
some even more than that, I think. So they're not going to agree to a $950 an hour billing rate from you or me, but they certainly would probably accept 80.
Okay.
So you've got so you've got a cost to complete, and maybe that's $645,000.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then there's the third way, and that's what we're going to do next. All right. So once the fourplex is finished and it's rented, you said that the total gross income is about $5,700 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you got a calculator there?
Yeah.
All right. So we've got gross operating income for our fourplex of $5,700. Multiply that by 12. What do you get?
62.7.
Okay. Now I want you to multiply that by 0.66.
Sorry, I screwed that up. 68.4. Sorry, by 0.6. So times.
Sorry, $5,700 times 12. What is that?
Okay, hold on here. 5,700.
Yeah, times 12 months.
Equals 68.4.
Okay, let's do it again. 68,400 per annum. And now multiply that by 0.66, and I'll explain why in a minute. What do you get?
0.66 equals 45,144.
Okay, so the reason I multiply your gross income by 0.66, Jordy, is that about 34% of all the rents you collect in residential goes out the window for your OPEX, your operating expenses.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's not including a mortgage. We're forgetting about the mortgage, all right? It's just for property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, vacancy allowance, property management, maybe I already said repairs and maintenance, you know, all the costs that you incur on a yearly basis. About 1/3 of your income goes out the window for all of that.
Right.
So your net operating income is probably going to be around $45,144 a year. Okay. That's a gross approximation. You know, it probably in the first few years will actually be higher because you should be able to keep your OPEX when it's done. You probably have no repairs and maintenance for the first, you know, couple of years. At least I hope so.
For sure. Yeah.
So it'll probably be higher than that, but it's a little bit of a conservative thing. Now, what are the cap rates in Belleville? What's the market cap rate?
I don't know that for sure, but I've always seen lower. Like I mean, I kind of just I use a just an app, and I figured this out to be around 8. But out of my properties,
I'm not asking what your cap rate is. I'm asking what the market will accept as a selling cap rate.
I'm guessing lower. I'm guessing 4 or 5.
So let's say it's 5. Let's say it's 5%. Okay. So divide 45,144 by 0.05.
Okay. Divide 0.05 equals. Did I
what do you get?
I got 902,888.
So you see where I'm coming from. So on an income basis, your property's worth $900,000.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand that?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Now, here in Ottawa, I did a CMA for a client of mine. He has a property. She has I think it's 39 stacked townhouses.
Okay.
And she was thinking about refinancing or maybe selling them. I'm not sure which. And I used in Ottawa a cap rate of 4.25% to value them on the basis of income.
Okay.
But I said to her, it's such an important decision that we should get an appraiser to help us with this. So for the first time in my career, Jordy, I turned to an appraiser. His name's John Kumba. He's a very good appraiser.
Right.
And he told me my cap rate of 4.25% was too high. And he lowered it to 3.25%. So, I mean, let's just fantasize for a moment. That we take that fourplex and we slide it over to Ottawa, and you get a selling cap rate of 3.25%. Just for fun, divide 45,144 by 0.0325. You're going to get like a ridiculous number.
So 45, what was it? 45?
144.
144.
Divided by 0.0325.
Whoa, big number.
What do you get?
1 million, 1.38946.
Yeah. So you can see that a selling cap rate, you hope to buy at say 8 or 9%, right? Like you did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you hope to quote unquote sell at 3 or 4 or 5%.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
what I teach people to do is not buy and flip, but buy
Right.
and hold.
Right.
But still, the selling cap rate is important because even though you're not selling it, you have to reappraise it.
Right.
So
Right.
if the market cap rate, if you're right about that, and I suspect you are, is
Yeah.
5%, and you can produce $45,144 of net operating income on an income basis, that place is worth $900,000.
Right. Right.
So now we have three values for this property. One which was 500,000 based on comparables. These are just made up numbers.
Yeah.
One that was 645,000 based on cost to complete,
Yeah.
and one which is almost 903,000 based on income.
Right.
And what you do is before the appraiser even gets to the property, you send him or her, most of them are guys, you send him,
Yeah.
nice pictures. So
Yeah.
as soon as your building is done, you take professional pictures, correct?
Okay. I haven't before, but I can easily.
Okay. So Jordy, good thing we're recording this because, I love doing this, but I hate doing it twice.
Okay.
So, I'm just trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
So every time you finish a project, and before your tenants move in, you take professional pictures. You must have I'm sure there's really good photographers there. My photographer charges me, I think, $150, and she just does an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
Don't take pictures with your crappy iPhone 6.
Okay, that's what I've been doing.
Right? I mean, you can, but these professionals, they will make it really look great. And of course, it's new paint, it's new floors, there's no garbage in the front lawn, the lawns are cut, it all looks really good. So, and those, you spend $150 on professional pictures, you'll have those pictures, as long as you're careful with your files for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And every time you have to rent an apartment, there are those pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
But we also provide them to the appraiser because the appraiser, people are more impressed by pictures than they are about people talking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we give the appraiser really good pictures, and we give the appraiser the three valuations. And we always say, we're not trying to influence the way, you value this. Of course not. We would never do that, right, Jordy?
Right.
But here are some really great pictures, and here's a list of everything I've done and exactly what the costs were. And I did ask you must have a realtor friend somewhere in Belleville.
Yeah.
I asked a realtor to help me with a CMA, and we came up with three numbers. You give them the three numbers. We came up with 900,000 based on income, 645,000 on cost to complete, and 500,000 based on comparables, and we think the value somewhere in there, but we're not really sure where. Now you help us out.
Right.
If the appraiser says to you, well, sorry, Jordy, I'm not interested in anything you have to say, we fire that appraiser even before he gets on site.
Done.
We do. I've had appraisers say, oh, no, I'm just going to walk through. In fact, some appraisers, they do a drive-by appraisal. We fire those people because, first of all, the appraisal is worthless. And second of all, it'd be incredibly inaccurate. Right. So if they refuse to look at the work that you and your realtor friend and all your renovators have done, then they're not worth a damn. And even though they have to be approved by the lender, that you can't just pick your own appraiser. It has to be on a list approved by the appraiser, by the lender.
Lenders, yeah.
If I do this all the time for myself and for my clients, I will call the lender and say, look, your appraiser did not want to know what renovations we did. That's not acceptable, because unless he's like Superman with X-ray eyes, he cannot know that we put insulation in the walls, in the ceiling, we put a new foundation, we put new plumbing in, we did all these things that he can't possibly see unless, like I said, he's Superman. Right. And so we need another one. So give us another one. Yeah. And I could tell you in Ottawa, where I'm quite well known, appraisers, they know that. They know that me and my clients, if they don't, if they don't play ball, we're not telling them what to do, but they have to at least listen to us, then we will fire them. So they all listen.
Perfect.
All right. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what we do.
No, that is very helpful. Yeah. Because I was just kind of going in blind and then letting the appraiser come in.
That's
Right.
the way to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
Jordy, do you really understand what a cap rate is?
Not really. I'm just, like I said, I'm just kind of doing it with an app, and I've always heard about it, but I've kind of
Okay, so I'm going to
everything.
explain it to you in a way that you are going to remember for the rest of your career.
Yep.
All right?
Perfect.
So you're married, right?
Yep.
What's your wife's name?
Rachel.
Oh, yeah, I can see it on the screen here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any kids?
3 kids. Yes.
How old are they?
10, 7, and 3.
Oh my God, little ones.
Yeah.
Um, Good luck. I have
Yeah.
5, but they're all in their 20s now, so
Yeah.
it's a little easier.
They're gone. Yeah.
So actually, one is in her 30s now. So I'll explain the cap rate. So you and Rachel tonight are sitting on your couch
Yep.
watching Netflix.
Yep. Yeah.
And you say to your Rachel, you say, Rachel, I think there's something. By the way, one of my daughters is Rachel. Um, there's something in this couch. It's kind of uncomfortable. And she says, what the heck? And you pull the cushion up and you discover in your couch tonight $600,000 of cash.
Okay.
You know, that's a great couch to own, by.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say, look at Rachel, we got $600,000. This
Yeah.
bill, this fourplex, we don't even need a mortgage. We could just
Yeah.
buy this thing for cash and pay for all the renovations for cash because we have $600,000. Okay. So you and Rachel go, whoopee, and you buy this place, you renovate it, you've spent $600,000 buying it and renovating it. That's your cost.
Yeah.
And I haven't included your time. I'll just go with 600,000.
Right.
Do you remember what your net operating income on this place is?
Was it? Well, it was 45 after, wasn't it?
It was $45,144.
Yeah.
So I need you to get your calculator out again. And you take 45,144 and you divide it by 600,000. 45,144 divided by 600,000. What do you get?
0.07524.
So your cap rate on this property, we just estimated it now, is 7.5%.
Okay.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I set as a target for all of my clients, whether I have clients in Los Angeles and
Yeah.
Phoenix and British Columbia. I don't think I have any in Belleville, by the way, except maybe you.
Good.
And you know, the minimum is 6%. So
Okay.
it's 7 or 8%. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Certainly much better than Toronto. Toronto, you'd be lucky to get 3.5.
Okay.
So you got 7.5. That's great. So
Right.
what that is, what the cap rate is
Yeah.
that if you took that $600,000 of cash that you found in your couch tonight and you put it in your bank, how much money would you get in interest from the bank?
Okay. So that's what.
Just answer the question and then we'll go on from there. So you take this, instead of buying this property, this fourplex, you say, Rachel, I think we should just put it in the bank. So you put it in the bank. What interest rate would the bank give you these days?
I don't know, 2.22% maybe. I don't even know.
Probably it would be between 1.5 and 2.
Yeah.
Let's assume it's 2%. Okay.
Yeah.
So you, instead of putting the 600,000 into the fourplex, you put it into the bank.
Yeah.
And you got 2% interest. What is 2% of $600,000?
What is it? Is it 2.4? Well, is it 12,000?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the bank, if you put your $600,000 in the bank, you would get $12,000 a year in interest. If instead you put it into this fourplex, you're going to get $45,144 of cash that you could touch, feel, and spend.
Right.
So what's better, $45,144 or $12,000?
45.
If you answered the other way,
Yeah,
that would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So rich dude Jordy, rich dude Rachel put 600,000 into the fourplex.
Yeah.
They get about $68,000 of gross income after paying their OPEX. They're left with about $45,000, and had they put their money in the bank, it would have been $12,000. So instead of getting $12,000 a year, they're getting $45,000 a year, and we agree. Obviously, the $45,000 is better.
Yeah.
But wait, it gets better. That 45,000 is your cap rate. So the cap rate, the capitalization rate, simply measures your cash rate of return,
Right.
as if you didn't have a mortgage.
Right.
And it's a very important number because it gives you a sense of whether this is a cash flow property, which it is.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of whether it's better than, say, maybe another property that has a 6% cap rate, or another one maybe in Toronto that has a 3.5% cap rate. Well, obviously 7.5% is better than 6 or 3.5.
Yeah.
But it's also better than the 2% you would get from your bank.
Yeah.
So a cap rate is simply a measure of return on investment based on cash.
Yeah.
It's as if you were a rich dude and you didn't need a mortgage. It's a very important number, but it's not the only number. I did send you 2 video trainings. I don't think you've done them yet.
Yeah, I haven't did them.
Yeah, you should though. I mean, if you have time, you should do them, because one will teach you how to calculate cap rates, and the other will teach you how to calculate internal rates of return.
Right.
So the cap rate's important, but by itself, it's not enough. You want to look at your internal rate of return. Why is the internal rate of return different from a cap rate? Here's why. In addition to the $45,000 that you and Rachel are making based on cash flow, you're also getting hopefully some appreciation in the real estate. So let's say that Belleville real estate goes up 3% a year. Okay. And so 3% on $600,000 it's going up about $18,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. Who gets that money?
Well, we do.
Exactly. Not the bank. You own the property. So if it goes up $18,000 a year, you're really not making $45,000 a year. You're making $45,000 plus another 18. You're really making about $63,000 on this building.
Yeah.
So $63,000 compared to the $12,000 from the bank is even a bigger gap, right?
Right.
But wait, it gets better than that. If you have a mortgage on it, and you have your tenants are paying their rent, who's paying down your mortgage? You and Rachel, or your tenants?
Tenants, obviously.
Your tenants. So let's say you had a $400,000 mortgage and you were paying down about $10,000 a year in principal on that, which is kind of typical. Really, you and Rachel are not stroking the check for 10 grand. It's your tenants doing that. So really, the right comparison is you're making $73,000 a year as compared to leaving your money in the bank of $12,000 a year.
Right.
All right. That's the magic of real estate. Now, if you were to buy and flip this building, you would miss out on a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've never flipped a property yet.
No, I didn't think you would. Now, the internal rate of return, the cap rate only measures the cash flow. The internal rate of return has 3 main returns in it. 1 is the cash flow. 2 is the appreciation that you hope you get every year if real estate goes up in value. And 3 is the mortgage paid down by your tenants. The internal rate of return kind of grabs all 3 of those. So typically on a project like this, I would guess that your internal rate of return will be 18, 20, 22, 24%, and your cap rate is 7.5%. So for professional investors, they do base a lot of their decisions, not just on cap rates, but in IR, internal rate of return.
Okay.
All right. So if you and I worked on Wall Street, and you and I walked into our boss's office and we didn't know how to calculate internal rates of return, that'd probably be our last day on the job.
Right. Okay.
All right. So now you're an expert.
I've kind of just always went off cash flow. Just basic, dummy math. Some of my properties are smaller too, single family homes. So if they made 500-600, this is when I had no idea. I didn't really study it. I just bought a house.
No, there's nothing wrong with, hey, listen, most people learn by doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know why I'm so smart? Because I make every mistake there is.
Yeah. About my personal situation, my full-time job for probably the last 15 years, I've been a professional poker player.
No way.
Yeah. So that's where it's kind of so that's actually.
How old are you?
I am 42.
Yeah. There's a best before date for poker players. You know that, eh?
Yeah. But Yeah, poker's sort of dying. It has. I mean, there was the boom when you couldn't turn on
Oh
TV
yeah,
and
you just
watching
couldn't
it,
make enough money. I mean, you couldn't
and
turn away.
yeah. So I was actually working at a youth jail and started playing poker on the side, making more money playing poker. Took a leave of absence. Took another leave of absence. Long story short, I've been playing for 15 years now. But I have no, because I play poker, I have no, after talking with a lot of tax lawyers and accountants, I have no income on paper. So it's non-taxable unless you're a professional, which since I have my rentals, they deem me not to be a professional. Um, so that's why I'm wondering, what about, should I ever and why should I incorporate, or should I
So,
keep these
yeah,
as
well,
my?
I saw that in your agenda. Thank you for sending it to me, by the way. And
Yep.
my take on that is, I think probably not. It depends. If a banker, a lender, an accountant, or a lawyer was on this call with you and
Yeah.
me, he or she, they'd probably say, yes, you should incorporate.
Right.
And they would say that for a couple of reasons. One, you might end up paying a little less tax, income tax.
Yeah.
And two, they'll tell you it gives you a little bit of protection if something goes wrong.
Right.
I think they're wrong. My wife and I, we own some properties, and they're
Yeah.
all in our personal name.
Oh, really?
And because I'm just a lowly civil engineer, I'm not allowed to give you any legal
Yeah.
advice or
Yeah.
accounting advice. I'm
Yeah.
not allowed to do that,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't either.
Right.
But I can only tell you what my wife and I have concluded.
Yeah.
If you have, say, 300 properties, and
Yeah.
each one is incorporated in its own numbered company,
Right.
you have 300 corporations that you have to maintain.
Right.
Do you have any idea how expensive that is, Jordy?
No, I've heard though. I've
So
heard.
you have to file income tax every year, right?
Yeah.
And doing your personal income taxes is not that hard
Yeah.
for an individual to do, but I would never tackle a corporate return.
Oh, really? I.
No, it's a whole other level of complexity. So you
Okay.
have to pay somebody to file 300 corporate tax returns.
Right.
Or
Right.
if you have 9 properties and you
Yeah.
had 9
Yeah.
companies, you'd have 9 income tax returns.
Okay.
Then you also have to do financial statements for those companies, and that costs you money.
Okay.
And then you have to keep these corporations alive by annual filings, and that's another cost.
Okay.
So it costs, at least from my experience, anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a year to keep these companies alive. You have to pay an accountant to do a corporate filing, and or a lawyer to do the corporate filing, an accountant to do the financial statements, and at least a bookkeeper, if not an accountant, to do the
Right.
tax returns.
Okay.
And so if you told me you could save, I don't know, $3,000 of property in income taxes by incorporating, but you're spending $5,000 a year keeping
Yeah.
that company alive, to me, that math, you're a poker player,
Yeah.
that math just doesn't add up.
No good.
And
Right.
I don't know if you know this, but I was with the Senators for a number
I
of
do know
years,
that.
the Ottawa Senators. And when I left the Ottawa Senators, I don't remember how many companies I had, but it was a lot. And I just got fed up with the complexity. And so what I did was I transferred all of our properties into my name and my wife's name.
Right.
And I only own one company. The
Okay.
only reason I own that company is it owns one of my cars. And if I
Okay.
kill it, then I've orphaned my ownership in the car. It's a nice old
I see.
Saab that I keep around. It's a collector item.
Right.
So I have to keep that company alive, and I'm okay with that. But I certainly don't want to be spending $100,000 or $150,000 a year. I'm 68,
Yeah.
keeping a bunch of companies alive so I could save $80,000 in tax.
Right. Right. Right.
So my calculation was pretty simple. Then there's a couple of other things. You and your wife, you told me that you and Rachel own these properties in your personal names. Are you joint tenants?
I'm not sure.
All right, so you need to find that out. Do you have a lawyer in Belleville that you like?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So you should ask him, what is your lawyer's
I
name?
think. I think we are. I think we are.
What is your lawyer's name? First
I
name?
just switched lawyers. It's Baldwin Law now.
Is that Bob Baldwin?
No, I know the son. He's actually family now. He married into my family. The son is Dan Baldwin.
Yeah, yeah. I think his dad, it might be Bob. Anyway, you should ask Dan if it's joint tenant. So what? There's two different types of personal ownerships: tenants in common and joint tenancy.
I think we're joint
I'm
tenants.
sure you would be, but check.
Yep.
So if you get run over by a bus, all Rachel has to do is take the death certificate or give it to Dan Baldwin. He
Yep.
presents it to the land titles office, and you are struck from the land titles. You are just simply removed. And
Okay.
so she owns the properties. If she's on 9 of them and you're on 9 of them, she owns
Right.
those properties free and clear.
Done.
Nobody can interfere.
Right.
You with me on that?
Yep.
It is a very powerful and simple way to transfer property.
I see.
And when your children are 18, if you want to, you and Rachel can add the children as joint tenants for love and affection. That's the actual term, love and affection.
Okay. Okay.
And if you want to,
Yep.
and I have 5 kids, and
Yep.
I have at least one, and they're all over 18 now. So I have at least one kid on every property with me. So let's say I pass away, then my wife Dawn and say my daughter Rachel
Yep.
own the property. I'm simply removed from land titles. And then my
Yep.
wife passes away, hopefully a long time from now, and then
Yep.
she's simply removed from land titles, and then Rachel owns
Right. Okay.
it. And what I did was I don't put 5 kids on each property, because the other thing I wanted to avoid is fighting in the next generation.
100%.
You may have seen brothers and sisters tend to fight.
Yeah. Yes.
So mom and dad pass away. Rachel owns this building,
Yep.
and then my son Matthew owns another building. My son Andrew, another one. My daughter Mimi, another one. My daughter Jessica, another one. If Jessica decides I'm selling it, I'm running off with my boyfriend to
Yep.
Costa Rica, she can sell it. She doesn't have to ask anybody.
Right. Right.
If Rachel decides I'm holding on to it, Dad taught me to buy and hold, she can
Yep.
do that. If Matthew or Andrew decide to refinance it, they can refinance it, whatever. So
Right.
it does tend to avoid fights in the next generation.
Yeah. That's a very good idea. I see
And
that.
so that's what we have done. In addition to that, there is a little bit of protection for you and Rachel, for you and your wife. Say you get really old, even older than I am now. You're 85 or 90 years of age, and maybe you're not quite in your right mind. You're
Yep.
not as sharp at 90 as you are at 42.
Yep.
So, and this happened to a client of mine, and maybe you get sick, and the caregiver says, "Hey, Jordy, I got this great new health cure in the United States. It's $500,000. You ought to sell this property. Give me the money, and I'll get you the cure."
Yeah.
This happens all the time, and you may not be quite clear, and so
Right.
you might put a
Yep.
mortgage on that property. You might sell that property. You might give your healthcare provider, your caregiver, $500,000 or $1 million in cash, and goodbye.
Yep.
You won't see
Yeah.
that person again.
Yeah. Yeah.
If one of your kids is on title with you as a joint tenant, you cannot
Right.
sell,
I see.
pledge, hypothecate, mortgage
Yeah.
without her or his permission.
Good idea.
Do you
Yeah.
understand that?
Yep.
So you're an old dude, and you sign something. It won't. That absolutely is not valid without everybody on title agreeing, and your kids won't. I'm sure they wouldn't agree to that, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I believe in simplicity, Jordy.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not permitted, and nor should I be giving accounting and legal advice. But that's what I've done for myself, and I certainly stand by it.
Yeah. So 2 things. Because I'm interested about when you bought the Sens. I remember when I was a kid when the Sens came to Ottawa, and I remember you guys buying it.
Yeah.
And also, my other question I was curious about, I don't even know what time it is if we have enough time. Okay. Do you suggest that I keep doing what I'm doing? Duplex, triplex, fourplex, they seem simple. I have contractors I trust right now. Boom, go in, get them done, and keep doing this. Or like the fourplex is the biggest one I have. Or do you own? I wouldn't even know how to start to buy a 20 unit building or a 24 unit building.
Right. So a couple of things. In terms of financing these kinds of purchases, whether it's a fourplex or a tenplex or a
Yeah.
duplex, whatever it is, in terms of financing them, there are plenty of B lenders out there that
Yeah.
will lend money to people like you and me. You know,
Yeah.
I have a good credit score. Do you know what your credit score is?
It's good. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely good.
You can go on Credit Karma and find out what it is.
Yeah.
Creditkarma.com is terrific. You can find it out. It's a free service.
I think my CIBC account has it right there.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And as far as like, I don't really, so 6 months ago, I got all my properties appraised and just extended my home equity line of credits. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh,
My
perfect, perfect.
fourplex.
But just in case you're concerned
Yeah.
about it, keep your credit score up as best you can, and
Yeah.
you know, and keep a watch on it just in case something. You know, there turns out there's another Bruce M. Firestone in North America,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
reason I know that is one day my credit score went down like this, and I went, "Whoa, what did I do?" And
Yeah.
I had $165,000 US judgment against me. I went, what the heck?
Yeah.
What did I do? You know,
The
and
other guy.
it was in US dollars too. So Bruce M. Firestone, the other Bruce M. Firestone, lives in Seattle, and he was in some kind of a dispute, and they
Yeah.
registered a judgment against him, and it shows up on my credit score too.
Unreal.
I had to hire a lawyer. Imagine going to a judge and say, "Well, I'm not that Bruce M. Firestone."
Yeah.
Right, you know, they kind of go, "Oh,
I-
really?" And
Yeah.
so I had to hire a lawyer. It took me like a year and a half to get it off of my credit score.
Wow.
So you
Wow.
should keep an eye on it. That's all.
Yeah, I will.
And just so you know, every couple of months you can have a look at it and see, yeah, it's okay. And
Yeah.
Rachel should keep an eye on hers too.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, so there are plenty of B lenders who, you know, instead of paying 2.5% or 3%, you'll pay 3.5% or 4%. But when you're making the kind of money you are,
Yeah.
with these properties, it really doesn't matter if you pay 4% or 3%. I mean, it matters that you'd make more money at 3 than at 4, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. What about the bigger stuff? What about the bigger buildings? How do you?
So yeah, we'll tackle that for a minute. So let me just show you something. I know that was in your. Do you mind if I share my screen with you?
No, it's good. No.
All right. So can you see my screen here?
Yeah.
So this is a property that clients of mine are looking at buying in a small town east of Ottawa called Wendover.
Okay.
And it's around $6.5 million. And it's, I think, yeah, it's 32 units, right?
Yeah.
The problem with this is that the cap rate is really too low. It's about 5%, and I don't want them to buy it unless it's 6%.
Okay.
But the issue, and I'll stop sharing, just wanted to show you that. So the issue that they're having is that there's no obvious ways to animate these properties. Do you know what I mean when I talk about animation?
No.
Animation is a term I use to describe adding new revenue streams
Okay.
to properties. So let's say you bought a single family home and you added a basement apartment.
Right.
That's
Right.
an animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's say you bought a single family home and you put a basement apartment in, and then you build a coach house in the backyard, which we're allowed to do in Ottawa.
Right.
That's an animation.
Add a bedroom. Yeah.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. You bought a single family home, you added a basement apartment. A coach house is a separate house in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
So we lobbied and finally were successful. We got a coach house bylaw passed in Ottawa in 2016. So now you're allowed to, in addition to the principal residence or the main building, you're allowed to have a small coach house in the backyard.
Oh.
It's like being able to build another house, but you don't have to buy another lot.
Right. Right. So two houses.
And I suspect that Belleville will put something like that in too.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because they want more affordable housing, and that's one way to get it. So an animation is you bought the single family home, you added a basement apartment, then you added a coach house in the backyard.
Right.
Then in addition to that, you added a backyard workshop, like a little self-contained workshop where somebody could have a gig.
Yeah.
And you added a couple of little storage sheds so that if your tenants have too much crap, like most of them do, they can have a little storage in the backyard and they can pay something for that.
Right.
We also put into almost all of our apartments tech packages, really good tech packages, which tenants pay for.
Right. So
And
how did you, I heard that on the podcast. How did
yeah,
you get this, like, where did you come up with the tech package?
well, I think that was my idea. And so when I started putting tech, we have about 352 apartment units at my doors, I guess you call them. My wife and I manage and own with our group. We have tech packages in all but two of them.
Really?
The two that don't have tech packages are both ladies in their 90s. They just didn't need it. We said,
Yeah.
okay. But everybody else has internet, Wi-Fi, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Crave
Yeah.
TV, HBO, Spotify, the music
Yeah.
service,
Yeah.
keypad locks,
And they're buying that through you.
all of it. Yeah. And and Nest thermostats, all of that. And the reason we do that is it's a really, really important profit center for us. We make money doing that.
Right.
And we provide our tenants with really, really good, strong internet, which thank God we did that, because in COVID-19, people are really
Oh yeah. Yeah.
putting that to the test.
Yeah.
First of all, they have lots of entertainment options. And second of all, they have really good internet with we put in really good technology, and we don't have any dead spots, so your technology works in every room and
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
basement and, everywhere you need it, even outside
Right.
your building. We use a Google Mesh network to do it.
Right.
And it's a big profit center for us. But when we first started putting it in, there were some tenants who said, well, why should I buy the tech from you? I could just get it from Bell or
Yes.
TELUS or AT&T or Verizon or
Yeah.
whatever the company is. And I probably don't have to tell you the story. How long does it take you to get all that stuff working?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pain for sure.
It's not easy.
No.
And so initially we got a little bit of a pushback, but as people got to know about the tech packages, people started seeking us out as landlords. And I remember I actually did a lease myself. I don't know how she found me, but she got a hold of me, like I guess you did.
Yeah.
And I did the lease with her. And I said, why did you rent this house? It's a little more expensive. And she said, because of the tech package. I said, oh, good. And she said, this was when Game of Thrones was going
Oh yeah.
big time. She said, I'm a Game of Thrones addict. And she was transferred from Peterborough to Ottawa, and she couldn't miss an episode. And she said, if I have to put the tech package in myself, it could take me a damn month to do it.
Yeah.
And a dozen phone calls, if not more. And she said, I could come here, and the moment I move in, everything works. I'm not going to miss an episode of Game of Thrones.
Do you have higher end stuff? Like,
Yeah, we put in the top end everything, the Google Mesh networks that we use and everything else.
No, but are your apartments higher end? Like mine are. I got a few student rentals. I'm just
No,
wondering.
even for our student rentals, we have student rentals. We have some affordable housing. I own some rural property. I have tenants who are roofers and plumbers and electricians.
And they all use it, eh?
Oh my gosh! If you don't think a roofer knows how to use his smartphone, you should just sit there and watch. They know.
What's the cost to put into tech? How much more are they paying buying it off you than they would setting it up themselves?
No, it's about the same cost as buying it from TELUS or Bell or Rogers. We make about we make about $25 to $35 a month per apartment profit. Right, by doing it. Because what we'll do is, in a 10-plex, for example, we'll bring in one service and we'll split it amongst 10.
Right.
In a duplex, we'll bring in one service and split it amongst 2. In a 4-plex, we bring in one service and split it amongst 4. Right? Like, I think Netflix allows you to have, 5 users on one account, and Spotify, I think, is 10. So you bring it in kind of wholesale and you split it. It's very profitable.
Right.
Our cap rates on that are like 40 or 50%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and we do things like we have, we buy sheds from the Amish, backyard sheds. They have metal roofs on them. They'll last 40 years. And we can buy those sheds. They're I think 9 by 12.
Yep.
So you don't even need a building permit for them.
Right.
And they have doors on either end, and we split them down the middle, and we rent them to each tenant for $85 a month, so that they can have a little bit of extra storage in their backyard, rather than having to go to a mini storage place where they're going to pay more.
Yeah.
And of course, it's further away.
Yeah.
And so you can buy those things and put them in place for about $3,000.
Yeah.
and you can get $170 a month, which is about $2,000 a year. So your cap rate on those things is probably 40 or 50%.
Yeah.
So real estate is get rich slow.
Yeah.
I wish it was get rich fast, but
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of animations that we do,
Right.
and they're very successful. And that moves your cap rate up from 7 or 8% to maybe 9 or 10%, and that's a big change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in terms of buying something like this, 32 units, which
Yep.
one of my clients is going to buy, I think.
Yeah.
The cap rate is too low. So what we're doing is, you're going to think this is really crazy, but it works. I've done it a couple of times before. Is they're also buying an industrial building not far from this project that I showed you. It's
Right.
an old industrial building. Maybe I
Yeah.
have a picture of it. Hang on. See, oh yeah, here it is. So this is an old garage. You can see it used to, here's your lube station. I don't know if you can see that here, your services. So this is a 20,000 square foot building that Carolyn and Hans bought for 25,000 bucks.
Ooh.
Nobody else wanted it, right?
Yeah.
So believe it or not, what we're doing with those properties where you have a 5% cap rate, to get the cap rate up, is we're going to, as some of them become vacant, we're going to take them out of the long-term rental market and put them into the medium-term rental market. Short-term rentals are like vacation rental by owner,
Yeah.
Booking.com, Airbnb.
Yeah.
There isn't much of a market for that right now.
Right.
But medium-term rentals are really in demand. So these will be furnished apartments.
Yeah.
That will be rented for 30, 60, 90, or 180 days. So instead of long-term rentals, which are 1 or 2 years, these will be medium-term rentals between 30 days and 180 days. So 1 month to 6 months.
Who's renting a medium-term rental?
So I'll just explain. So what we're going to do is we're going to bundle the medium-term rentals, which are rented at a high, because they're furnished and they're shorter term, they're rented at a higher rate, quite a bit higher.
Yeah.
We're going to bundle them with small workshops in that building that I showed you.
Okay.
So let's say you're in Belleville. This would work great in Belleville, by the way. Because how far is it from Belleville to Toronto?
You're 2 hours.
Yeah, it's only 2 hours.
Yeah.
So what? And I have clients in Tamworth doing this as well, which is a small town, much smaller than Belleville. Yeah. And what the people who are coming from Toronto, from Ottawa, from Montreal, from New York State, not this year, obviously.
Yeah.
And let's say you're with a group and you want to practice poker. You're going into a big tournament. You're going to go somewhere for a month and sharpen up your skills. You might rent some medium-term rental, and you'd rent a workshop where you can do your gaming. Tech guys, artists, writers. Anybody who needs breakout space will rent these things, and whether it's Wendover or Tamworth or Belleville. Yeah. The cap rate on that part of their business is anywhere from 14 or 15% to like a crazy 22 or 24%. So unfortunately, in the multi-res business, there's so much competition for the product, the cap rates are too low. But if you kind of bundle it with something else, you change the functionality a little bit. In other words, you take at least a few of the units out and put them into the medium-term rental market. Yeah. And you bundle it with something else like some workshop space or maker space or breakout rooms. It's a really neat model. And we've used it twice before, and we're planning to, this will be the third one that we do. So those are the kinds of animations that you have to do in order not to go broke.
Yes, I see.
But for now, Jordy, you can just go on with the model you're doing now, and you could look at maybe acquiring a 32-unit building like this later down the road when you're clear on what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. Is that when you bought the Sens? Was that were you real estate before that too?
Yeah, I have for what it's worth, I have a PhD in urban economics from the Australian National University in Canberra. I did a master's degree in engineering science at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, and I did a bachelor's degree of civil engineering at McGill University in Montreal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've kind of been a real estate guy all my life, I think. And, you know, I was a developer. I don't know, I built 1,200 homes and
Really?
dozens of office buildings and shopping plazas. I built the Canadian Tire Center where the Sens play.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been a real estate guy
Yeah.
pretty much. And now what I'm too old to, I don't want to do the development stuff. That's for younger people at your age.
You're just buy
Um,
and hold now?
Beg your pardon?
You're just pretty much buy and hold now? Are you still buying or just holding
Oh
now?
yeah, no, I still buy, but not as much as I used to. I mean, I'm okay with, you know, I'll probably add a few more buildings before I go see St. Peter, but
Yeah.
I'm not really crazy about that aspect of it. You know, there's a limit to what I want to do. So what I decided to do was I set myself up doing some real estate investment and business coaching, and you know, if you want my 2-minute sales pitch, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, sure. For
So
sure.
I coach people like you for 6 months. Before COVID-19, I don't charge very much. I was charging $1,500 a month plus HST. But when
Okay.
COVID-19 hit, I just decided to reduce it to $850. So I
Okay.
charge $850 a month plus HST, and
Okay.
I coach for 6 months.
Okay.
I don't want to coach people, you know, for 10 years. I mean, it gets, you know, there's a limit to what you can do. So in that
Right.
6 months, I kind of do a brain transplant from me to you.
Okay.
And I help my clients, you know, focus in on their business model, learn the stuff that I know about how to acquire property and how to animate it. And one of the things you put in your agenda was you would like to add some additional income. And one of the things that I would teach you is, if I got a chance to coach you, is what I call proper property management. I can teach you how to manage properties properly and how to manage third-party properties. I've got lots of young people your age in their 40s and 30s who run up to 600 units, other people's as well as their own,
Mm-hmm.
and they make real money. But they do it because they follow my formula of property management, which is different. And my leasing, the way I do residential leasing as well as commercial leasing, is completely different. So if I got a chance to coach you, probably that would be one of the objectives of the 6 months, is to set up a you know, a property management company. And it's relatively easy, Jordy, to expand that. And the reason for that is that if you call up most landlords, they hate their existing property managers. Most of them are just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and property management is a core competency if you're going to be a real estate investor. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for example, I coach Dan Dore, who has over 600 doors under management and makes a boatload of money because he follows my formula. But, you know, what he does is he has his for rent signs up, and the people who call on the for rent signs in front of the properties that he's managing, a third of the time, they're landlords. They're just not happy with their property managers. So
Right.
I'll bet you could pick up 30, 60, 100 properties and really make a living at it if you decide not to be a professional poker player.
Yeah.
So I would
Um,
coach you to do something. If that was your objective, I would coach you to do something like that.
and so do you manage all your properties then too? Or do you have?
Well, my wife does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, she has a team. She has a really good team around her.
Yeah.
But I do almost, you know, I'm a real estate broker at Century 21. We own 5 Century 21 franchises. I do zero management. You know,
Okay.
I have a partner. His name's Ralph Shaw, and
Okay.
he's a charming Irishman, and he does all the management. You know, so if the internet's not working or the photocopy machine is broken, they don't call me.
Right. 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 Right.
So what I like to do, Jordy, is I really enjoy teaching,
Yeah.
mentoring, coaching,
Yeah.
research. So I set myself, you know, I'm 68, so you know, I don't know
Yeah.
how long I could do this for, but I set it up in a way that I have absolutely zero day-to-day responsibilities. My only responsibility, I don't coach that many people, but the
Right.
people I do coach, they get some attention, and I just like it.
Yeah. How many sessions would we do? Just one a month or?
So that's a good question. What we do is my coaching is a little different. You know, I coach a few billionaire clients, so their needs are different from yours.
Yeah.
But I have some form. I used to teach. You know, I was a prof at the University of Ottawa. I have some former students of mine in their 20s who are buying their first investment property.
Yeah.
So their needs are different from your needs, which
Yeah.
are different from, say, a billionaire client.
Yeah.
So I do ask you to provide, as you did for me today, a very detailed agenda, because it's your agenda that drives it, not mine.
Okay.
And then I add stuff like I did today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we do 1 2-hour session a month on Zoom like this.
Yeah.
It's quite intense. And then there's follow-up. So for example, let's say you're buying a property.
Yep.
You know, I would ask you to put Zoom on your phone.
Right.
And so if you're buying a property, with Zoom, you can walk me through the property. I don't have to go to Belleville.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, I have clients in Long Beach, California. I mean, if I had to, these days you couldn't even get there, right? I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly. So I can walk through properties, comment on animation potential,
Yeah.
you know, changes in renovation strategies, some things that make a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, and I can do that in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are what I call ad hoc meetings. And sometimes, you know, people rope me in on meetings with lenders, meetings with lawyers, meeting with realtors, meetings with mortgage brokers.
Yeah.
So I tend to, you know, I kind of live on Zoom these days, so I can drop in from, those are just ad hoc things.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
in addition to that, I ask every one of my clients, including you, if
Yep.
I teach you or coach you,
Yeah.
to do what I call a mid-month report. So part of coaching is holding people accountable.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good at that. So if you
Yeah.
tell me, hey, Bruce, I'm going to do the following 5 things this month, and you don't do any of them,
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, you know, you have to kind of report back to the mothership, which would be me. And
Yeah.
then I give you heck for that. I don't really give you heck, but I do say, you know, part of coaching is
Yeah.
that, you know, you should be a responsible person.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are. But so you do a mid-month report, and that's important as well. And then I have an infinite number of video trainings that I've recorded. And I sent you 2 already, just
Yeah.
because I think you should do them.
Yeah.
So there is quite a bit of work on your part.
Right.
You don't have to do it, but what's the point of having a coach if you're not going to do the work? You shouldn't really engage a coach if you just don't have the time for it, which is perfectly understandable.
Right.
With 3 little kids, you might not have the time.
Yeah.
But you know, that I think you should do. And the last thing is, I have a 6-month course called the All-Star course, or the Ninja course. Sometimes I change those names around. Which I recorded with, I had, I think, 9 or 10 students, which we recorded like a very, very, very thorough 6-month long course. And it's part of the coaching. I think you should do that too. And you do it at your own speed, but you only get a year to do it. So you would want to do that. But at the end of the 6 months, and after you finish that course, which is, like I said, it's free, it's included,
Yeah.
you will be one of the best trained real estate minds in the world.
Really, eh?
Yep.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm definitely gonna just try and figure out, make sure I have the time. I actually just have I got a phone call Saturday about a family friend, and I heard him mention that he knew someone that was selling a house for $75,000.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I went by and looked at it, and well, they weren't. It was someone died, and the mother got the house. Now she wants to get rid of the house. So I had an idea she would sell it for. So I offered her I was just thinking about the Zoom meeting of walking you through the house.
Oh, it'd be so much fun to do.
Yeah.
I'd
So
love
I don't
to
know
do
if
it.
I've got it yet. Hopefully I do get
So
it.
Jordy, I think if you engage me as your coach, you'll really benefit, but I think we'd have some fun too. I think
Yeah.
we get along pretty well.
For
I
sure.
have somebody else that I'm coaching in about 8 minutes. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, so what's the best way for me to contact you?
You know, I'll put my cell number in.
I've got it. I think I've got it.
I think you do.
Yeah, you
But
text me
but
already.
the best way to contact me by far is email.
Okay.
You know, and I tell everybody, you know, I've coached thousands of people now, like thousands, and
Yeah.
if everybody called me every day, I would never get any work done. So
Yeah.
unless the house is burning down, I say to people, don't call me, text me or email
Yeah.
me, and email me is the best. And
Email's
and by the way, if you wanted Rachel to sit in on some of the sessions,
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. I don't charge anything extra for that. Or if you had a realtor that you wanted, or if you wanted Dan Baldwin to join with one of the sessions, I'm good with that. I don't mind as long as it's the same session. There's no additional cost. All right.
Right. Okay. I'll actually let my realtor works for Century 21 actually, and he's
Well,
kind
it
of
doesn't matter. I don't care whether they're Century 21 or Remax.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I really enjoy it, and I'm really good at it, and it's. I think I'm probably the best real estate investment coach in the world. I really think so. But that's like being the tallest midget.
Yeah.
Because most real estate coaches are just terrible.
Yeah.
So you know, but and if you need any references, I probably have, you know, a few hundred. If you need some additional information, just reach back to me. But I really should go. But I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too.
Yeah, I did. I'll email you for sure. Thanks, Bruce.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Be well now. Be safe.
You too.
All right.